Okay, Mike Stoll here, Entrepreneurship 621. I'm promised to do a quick, short video, kind of quick and dirty, kind of giving you a quick overview, introduction to the business model canvas project, business model canvas / business concept profile project, which is due on February 5th. And just real quickly, the basis for this project is the work that's been done in the idea generation exercises. So all of those exercises that everybody submits, myself and a couple of other folks here in the Center for Entrepreneurship sit down and we take a look at every one of those ideas and we select the top 8, the ones that we think are the most interesting and maybe have the most commercial potential as they're written right now from our perspective. And so those become the projects, the 8 projects that will be worked on as teams. Whoever's idea it was that was selected will then become the team leader for that project. And so everybody in class will be engaged in this in teams. And then those teams will be assigned randomly as well. So the team leader goes with their idea, but then from there, we just randomly assign the teams. And again, the project's due on February 5th, sorry about that. And basically consists of 2 key components. One is the business model canvas itself, and then the other piece is, and the business model canvas is both textual and visual, but you'll see what I'm talking about when I provide the example. And then the business concept profile is a component that requires you to think deeply about the business idea and how you would take it to market. And so that's going to be a narrative piece that you're going to put together. So those 2 components make up the bulk of the project in terms of the evaluation, the content, and then the evaluation. The other piece is, since it is a team project, I will be assigning peer review. So each team will need to complete a peer review assessment at the end of the project, and that becomes a portion of the grade. So that we hope that typically alleviates any free rider issues or spots, because it happens occasionally, not very often, but it does happen occasionally that we get some people that may not contribute fully to the project. So this gives an opportunity for the team to weigh in on each other's performance. So that said, let's take a look at those 2 parts of the project. The first is the business model canvas. And there's 2 ways that you can complete the business model canvas. One is, which is up on this screen right here, is a template that you can fill out. And if you look on the screen, you'll see that there's a primary and then there's an alternate canvas. And so you don't have to do 2 canvases, but it's always great if you can. The primary canvas is your best shot. That's the one you think is probably the best opportunity for you to create a really interesting business model for this startup business idea. The alternate could be a different way of viewing it. So there may be a couple of different ways you could slice this, and you want to present them both, and that would be awesome. The canvas is really broken up into these different parts, and it covers who are the key partners of this, what are the key activities that you need to engage in to make your value proposition come to life. What is that value proposition? Who are the customers that you're trying to reach, and what kind of relationship are you trying to establish with those customers? How are you going to reach those customers? What are those channels of distribution? What types of key resources are needed to really effectively execute on this interesting business idea? And then talking a little bit about business models, which we cover in Experience 3. What money is coming in? How are we making money off of this? So what are those revenue streams? And then what does it cost us, to deliver this business? What is that cost structure? Key activities have a cost to them. Maybe dealing with key partners has a cost to them. So what are those costs? So one way you can complete the business model canvas is through this template. Now, there's another way of doing it, which is you can go online and you can create a business model online. Now, this has some really, and this is Canvanizer is where you do this, canvanizer.com. There's links in Schoology for this. And the cool thing about Canvanizer is you can create a free account and you can create multiple iterations of the business model canvas online, and then you can export it into a document and those kind of things. So there's two ways, the Microsoft Word template or going to Caminizer and using Caminizer. And I don't have a preference because ultimately I'm going to see the end product. So however it works best for you, that's what you should do. So that's the business model canvas. And it looks deceptively simple, which is kind of the beauty of it. It's a very simple approach. I think it really makes understanding the business model much easier, but it's not simple. And I provided a tutorial link in the project folder, so you could see, you could go get a short tutorial from Alexander Osterwater, one of the proponents of the business model canvas. And he gives a great little tutorial about how to put together a business model canvas, and he uses Nespresso as his example. And it's very straightforward. And after we view the video in my face-to-face class, students always say, oh, that makes more sense now. So it's a good example. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. So that's the business model canvas piece. The second piece is the business concept profile. Now, I'm putting that up on screen. Now, I've given you this as a Microsoft Word template, and probably the easiest way to do it is just to fill it in as is. And basically what this document does is it asks you for some really specific information. It's like, one, briefly describe what the business concept is. You know, give me a quick summary, and then outline, as you're going into this business idea and you're viewing it as a startup, kind of outline for me what you think are the basic assumptions that you're making about this business concept. We all have assumptions when we go into a startup business. What are those assumptions? So what is this business? Summarize it, give me an idea. So I have the feel, I can really feel and see what it's really like. You know, what is it you're doing? And then provide those basic assumptions. And then you want to start delineating the opportunity. You know, this idea, what is the opportunity here? And, you know, first and foremost, who's the customer? Who's your ideal customer? And then a fundamental, like significant foundational part of understanding whether an idea is an opportunity is what Steve Blank calls getting out of the building. Simply doing face-to-face type interviews with people, not surveys, not online surveys, but face-to-face interviews with potential customers to learn from their experience and their point of view whether your business concept resonates with them. If you're solving a problem, is that a problem? Is it a real pain point for them? Is it a migraine problem as opposed to just a dull headache? You know, something that's really important to them. And alternatively, too, what you often find when you do customer interviews is that you learn that maybe you didn't conceptualize the problem right, and maybe there's something more important to them. So you can get a lot of really learning and insight into that. So instead of just trying to confirm your assumptions when you go out and interview people, your agenda is to learn as much as you can, and hopefully it reinforces your assumptions. But if you learn something new, if it makes you change direction and pivot, that's equally viable. So in looking at this opportunity piece, you're going to have to tell me who's the customer, and then you're going to have to put together a detailed plan for what I call customer discovery and interviews, which is, which is basically you need to tell me what's best for you. Are you going to do structured interviews with kind of predefined customers? Are you going to do sort of in the moment, what I call guerrilla mode interviews, where you're going to go in and interview somebody and try and get at what they're thinking of? Maybe you're trying to learn more about, in the all-in startup, they have the businesses around bicycles. And so the main characters in the book are going into the bicycle shop and talking to customers and employees in a sort of a unstructured conversational way to try and see if they can learn more about customer preferences when it comes to bikes. So you need to define that. Where are you going to find these customers? And how would you find, not that you're going to for this project, but how would you find 100 customers to interview? You need to delineate that. And how would you get access to them? And once you've delineated that, then you need to be able to specify a list of interview questions that you would ask these people. So if we use the benchmark and said, we really want to interview 100 people, you're not going to do that in this particular case. But you're going to figure out what works best for you in terms of interviewing. You're going to figure out who the potential customers are. You're going to figure out how to gain access to them. And you're going to create a list of interview questions, making sure that you don't ask leading questions. Then you want to take those questions and you want to field test them. And what I want you to do is 5 interviews. And then you want to come back and disseminate what did you learn from those interviews about your questions, about the process, what information did you get from the customer responses, and if you were going to do another round of 5 or 10 interviews, what would you change in the next round? So this is a really fundamental part, important part of the concept profile. Then you want to kind of talk about what would it take to get a minimum viable product, which is essentially a prototype. What would you do? How would you do it? What might it cost? Thinking bigger picture, you've got customers, but what's the market potential? Is this a large and growing market? I want you to provide some specifics on the information and the trends in your target market. Do some secondary research. You can also do primary research and talk to people about the market, but give us some secondary research about growth rates, overall outlook for that market, and be specific as possible. Then quickly identify, do you have any competitors, both in the market and maybe up and coming? You want to kind of have a snapshot of who those competitors might be. So that's kind of looking at the opportunity. Then team, what kind of team would you need to put together to make this a viable and sustainable business? When I think team, I think about full-time team members, think about key advisors, mentors, people that could open doors for you. That would be equally important. And then, when you think about the business model canvas, one of the questions I always ask is people say, well, here's our key partners. And my response is always, well, why would these key partners work with you? Why would they collaborate with you? So you need to be able to delineate that here. And then if you're the team lead, so you're the entrepreneur that submitted the idea that was selected, we want you to tell us why you think this business concept would be a good fit for you personally. Is the timing right? And do you have the right skills and mindset to make this work? And if you don't, at this point in time, what's your strategy to address that? So that's a component of this. And then the final piece of the puzzle on this business concept profile is, what's a likely exit strategy? If this were to start up and gain traction and be a sustainable business and be attractive, how might you exit it if you wanted to move on and do something else, or you wanted to harvest the value of the company? So you want to delineate that, and don't just tell us we're going to go public. Give us the possible scenarios and what's the likelihood. And if you said we're going to be acquired, well, who might acquire you? Just think it's tough, but kind of think down the road a little bit. The pre-mortem, introduced in experience 3, you start a business, 1 year later it failed. Why did it fail? So I want you to do a quick pre-mortem of this business concept and why it might fail a year down the road. And then summary data is just basically that. It's just kind of summarizing your final learning about the business concept, this business idea, after completing the business model canvas and this business concept profile, the test customer interviews, all that kind of stuff. And at this stage, based on what you learned, would you make any changes? Would you pivot? And then overall, how do you feel about the business at this stage? And I'd even say at this point, you might even want to grade the business, like on a scale of 10. Like on a scale of 10, how much potential do you think this is, or this business has, after going through this process? So that's the business concept profile. And so that's the project. You're going to complete those 2 components, and you're going to provide them to me in an integrated document. And the length is however long it needs to be. You use your best judgment to provide a detailed, really close examination, and think of it from the perspective of, I'm not doing this to get a grade. What if I was really doing this? Would I leave no stone unturned? Would I really dig in deep and do a deep dive and to make this a great project? And so you need to think about it from that perspective. Think about this as not an academic exercise, but if we were really going to test out this idea and see if it had potential and do the canvas and the concept profile, how would we do it? So don't think about it as a class project. Think about it as something you would do for where the stakes are high and they're real. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a quick introduction and a quick and dirty look at what the business concept profile is. again, due on February 5th. 2 key components, team-based. Teams will be selected by me based on the idea picked. Whoever's idea got picked is going to be the team lead, so they're in charge to rally the team and make the assignment, so they have to show some leadership capability. Project has to be turned in as a complete project. Don't give me pieces of the puzzle. And then at the end of the project, you'll be doing a peer review survey, essentially, that I'll send out the link to as we get a little bit closer once the teams are formed. So you can assess each other's performance on the project, and that becomes a component of the grade. It's usually like 20% of the grade, I'll let you know. I have to look. Now, I know some people are probably going to ask about samples, and I did provide a business model canvas tutorial on there. I'll find a good sample of a completed canvas, but the concept profile and the business model canvas, these are projects that are continually, I'm iterating. And so I've never combined them in the way I'm combining them now for your course. So, because I'm continually tinkering and iterating and finding new and different ways to do these projects. And so there's no integrated example from a past class, because you're the first group that's doing it this particular way. So I'll put as many examples up as I can that will help you, but there's nothing that's exactly like what you're doing, because I'm constantly changing the questions and refining the approach based on what I know, what I'm learning, and what I'm seeing. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, because I want to make sure that you know exactly what you need to accomplish going in. So again, hope this helped, and I'm looking forward to seeing which ideas get picked, and I'm looking forward to seeing the completed business model canvas and the business concept profiles. So good luck.